Hello and welcome back to the channel. I want to have a look at how we go about installing into Farming Simulator 17 multiple factories. These are the ones that run with the Fabrik script. Now, most of the maps that I've played on or played around with generally have one and only one of whatever type of factory that might be. So for instance, in this particular case we have the sawmill, then we have the holes hacker, and so on and so on. Generally speaking, you only ever have one of whatever mod that might be. So question has arisen a couple times and I've been far too busy and I've got a damn cold again, so I just haven't had the time or the incentive to really get into this too deeply. But I figured, I've got a couple minutes. Why not have a look? Let's have a look and see if we can figure this out. So I've had a bit of a play around. I found a couple of different scripts that I thought might be of use, but they didn't really do what I wanted to do and whatever else. Now, what I'm going to do here is we've got the actual sawmill, which if we come over, this is the my conversion of the Manchester map. I'll show you the map, watch all bits and pieces there. Unfortunately, I can't give this particular version out. It's not mine to give out. I just did this as a sort of test to see if it was something I could actually do, but it was one I had and I've been playing around with for various different reasons, so I figured why not use it. But I've got the sawmill here, and if I come over into my Cinegraph, I've kind of put all this together and I've put all of my mods that use the Fabrik script into a particular transform group called mods. And if I click on that, and you can look around the map, you can see everything that runs on the Fabrik script is in that particular transform group. For me, that's easy, keeps everything in one place, so I don't have to go looking for it too hard. Now, the way that the Fabrik script works is that it creates its own save ID, so that everything that is put into these particular mods, be it logs, wood chips, or whatever else, water, fuel, that mod is then listed as a specific save ID that it can register all of those parts that you add into that particular mod, so it knows how much of whatever is in that particular mod. So when we actually make a duplication or we import a second one using exactly the same save ID, we get an error. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to demonstrate what error is shown up, and I've got the actual console commands turned on for my version of Farming Simulator 17, so we'll have a look in there and I'll show you what I mean by that. And you may have come across this yourself. I do apologise for all the sniffling, but like I say, I've got a cold. I wasn't going to do this, but I thought, why not? Let's just get past the snivelling bit and we'll see what we can come up with. But so hopefully you forgive me for that. But I really wanted to do this video, so because as I say, I've had a couple of people ask me, and my curiosity got the better of me, so I had to do it. So what we've got here, as I say, in the Cinegraph here, is I've got my sawmill, which is just listed as Fabrik. This is quite an old version that I've had for some time. One of the first versions of the sawmill that was released for Farm Sim 17. It works really, really well. So I've not seen any reason to change it. So if I highlight the entire transform group here in my Cinegraph, and I'm going to use the duplication shortcut keys, which would be my left control and D for delta, which will make a copy of it. You can't see it because it's actually in exactly the same place as the original. But what I want to do is just drag it over with the gizmo, and now you can see I have two of the same. So I'm going to click on the original one and just move that over out the way a little bit, and we'll just position these so we can actually get round all the bits and pieces. Okay, it's straightforward enough. I've made a duplication of that particular mod. There's no reason why that shouldn't work. Well, actually there is, because now they both share the same save ID. So unfortunately, the way that it works within Farm Sim 17, you can't have duplicate save IDs of anything in the map at all. If you have a duplicate save ID of anything at all, it will cause a conflict, and then only one of them will work properly, correctly. The other one will then just not work at all, or it will only work partially. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to save this, and we'll go into game, and I'm going to show you the actual error that we get and why it doesn't work will come later on, and how we can come around and actually overcome that and fix it. So I'm going to save this now that I've made my duplication. So I just want to show you in Giants Editor how to make the duplication to start with, and that it can be done by doing a duplication. You don't have to re-import the mod again or anything else. So for me, for this particular map, I've actually deleted all of the i3ds for the original import of all of these mods and everything else. So I would have to put another version of it, if you like, into the map or whatever else, but I want to use the same version, otherwise I can't get what my point is across. So you can quite easily make a duplication like I've shown you there and explained there. But anyway, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and save the map, and then what I'll do is I'll close this down, we'll get into game, and then I'll show you the two of them in game, and how we can basically work with them and what they will do for now until I make the appropriate changes to overwrite that problem with the duplication of the save ID. Okay, so I'm going to go into game, and then I'll see you in a little bit, and we'll have a look in when we get into game. So I'll see you in a little bit. Here we are now in game, and as you can see, both of the sawmills, or listed as I showed you in the cinemagraph, named as Fabrik, in the map, in the game, whatever else. And I've already gone ahead and put some logs in the holes hacker to get me some wood chips, and I've also brought over some logs and put them in as well, just to sort of speed things up a little bit, because I just want to make a short video, but I do want to explain this hopefully in its entirety so you can understand where and what you need to do. So if we come over to the actual screen here, you can see we've got all of our information. We've got our inputs, fuels, which would be our wood chips, our logs, and then our outputs would be our wood chips and our board pallets. And it's obviously telling us that our fuels are empty because I haven't put any wood chips in it just yet. I want to do that on camera, so to speak, so you can see me actually adding that in to both of them, so they hopefully start up or attempt to start up at the same time, and then we will get our error, which I'll then go through and explain that. So if I come over to this one, we've got exactly the same again, inputs, fuels, which would be our wood chips again, and logs, and then our outputs of wood chips and our board pallets. Okay, excellent. So at the moment everything looks exactly the same, and it looks like it should work without any problems. So what we'll do here is we'll jump into the Massey Ferguson here. I'll just reverse up a little bit more, get into the trigger, and we will then put our wood chips into this one, like so. Excellent. And then we'll just come over, put the wood chips into the other one, like so. And then what I'll do is we'll jump out and we'll have a look at the actual units themselves. Okay, so you can see the one on the right has kicked into gear and is working absolutely fine, no problems whatsoever. Just bear with me. Turn my volume down a little bit on my speakers so I don't get any feedback. So this one here, as you can see, no problem, all working absolutely fine. We're getting our board pallets, and you can see all the animations working there, no problems. So if we come around the back, we can see that our animations are working, and we are actually getting our board pallets. Fantastic, all great. So if we come over to this one, we can actually see that this one is working as well. We're getting our board pallets, we are getting our wood chips, and everything is running, working perfectly fine, no problems. Now I must point out that this is a brand new save game. I've not added anything in other than some money to get me some equipment so I could cut the trees down and whatever else, just a random number I typed in, but everything is actually working. We don't have any issues with the actual units themselves starting up and running and giving us what we want. So where's the problem, you ask? Well, what we have is a duplicate save ID error within our actual log file, and I'm going to show you that. As I said before, I've got the console commands turned on. There are plenty of videos out there of how to do that, so I won't be making one for that. So if you don't know how to do that, look one up. Ian Robson's got a really good one on how to do that. It's exactly the same for, I believe, 13, 15 and 17, so and there are others available as well. Just do a Google search or whatever else. Really easy to do, but with the console command turned on, I can press the tilde key and I can bring this up on my screen, and if I then go page up, it will go through all the bits and pieces that I've got on this particular map, and all the bits and pieces warnings, because I haven't got any actual additional fruit types or field types other than my own on this particular map. So it's giving me some warnings, but those can be ignored, there's not a big deal. If we continue on up through, we come to our registration of the actual Fabrik script. So if we come up, you can see here we've actually got quite a few bits and pieces I've put on this particular map: the pig food mixer, TMR mixer, fermented silo. Then we've got our Fabrik, which is our first one, which is loaded, because you can see there that it says it's loaded. And then we've got a hose hacker. I don't know if I can move that so you can see a bit better. That might be better. So we've got a hose hacker, and then the milk factory, pallet production, and so on and so on and so on. If we then continue on down, we come down to the bottom one below the biofuel, and it says error. Adding on create loaded object with duplicate save ID Fabrik script underscore Fabrik. And then underneath that it actually says Fabrik script load Fabrik. So it has loaded it, but it's created an error at the same time. And we don't really want that error, because that could later on cause us issues with certain aspects of the way that these particular units will operate. So we want to get rid of that error if we can. In this particular case, as I say, they are working, but testing a few other bits and pieces, I've found that with that particular error, you will either burn through something really, really quickly, like your logs for this particular sawmill here will be used up far quicker than the ones over there, because in effect that original sawmill is actually using the logs from this sawmill, if that makes sense, because they use the same save ID. So it's taking the two inputs that you've got, even though they are separate buildings with separate triggers and everything else, it's actually using the same inputs for one unit. Even though we are actually getting obviously an output as well, you might find that this one will never fill up. This one will fill up really, really quickly. This one won't ever fill up, and it will run out really, really quickly of its inputs. The actual wood chips and the logs will disappear twice as quickly in this one as they will in this one, because, as I say, the original save ID, which is allocated to this unit, is being duplicated over here on this unit, and then this unit is using the inputs of this unit. It's very complicated, but hopefully you understand what I'm getting at here, because it can't have that duplicate save ID, because it causes all sorts of manner of issues. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually come out of this. I won't, will I save it? Yeah, I'll save it so I don't have to buy the machinery again and go through all that nonsense, but I'll save the map, and then what I'll do is I'll go back in the Giants Editor and I'll show you and try and explain to you how the save ID actually works, and the differences between certain save IDs with different scripts and things like that. So, and then we'll come back in and we'll have a look, and hopefully that error will be gone, and then you'll understand, hopefully understand, what I've tried to put out in this video. So I'm going to go ahead and save, and I'll meet you back on the desktop in a little bit. So we're back into Giants Editor again, and I want to show you a couple of different things here. I've literally just loaded this up, so it might be a bit jumpy, but hopefully not. In one of my previous videos I played around with the farm silo system and how we go about setting up different save IDs, so that I can have one silo over here, one silo over there, and one silo over there somewhere, and they all hold their own amounts of whatever fruit type I assign to it, so they don't all share the actual amounts between all of them. They have their own fill capacities. So what I want to do is I'm going to go to Window, and I'm going to bring up my user attributes. If I go into my mods folder, which I showed earlier, if I can find that somewhere in amongst all this, there we go. So we go to mods, and I'm going to come into, did I put it in there? No, I didn't put it in there. I put it in here, sorry. So if we come into here, we've got all of the parts to do with the actual unit itself, and if we come down within our user attributes, you can see down here we've actually got a user attribute called save ID, and the different name that has been associated with that particular save ID. So this one was Farm Silo System 01, sorry, 02, and this one is Farm Silo System 01, which is all the way over there. So that's one way of actually setting up your different save IDs. Now that works like this for this particular script, this particular system, the actual Farm Silo System script. Now the way that it works with the Fabrik script stuff for save IDs is slightly different. The actual save ID is the name of the transform group. That is your save ID. So if we come back over to the actual sawmills here, we can see here, like we did at the beginning of the video, put in the two, or made a duplication of the original Fabrik, the original sawmill. So in my mods folder here, we've got our original, which is Fabrik. Then we've got our second one, our duplication, which is also called Fabrik. Now that is the actual save ID for that particular building. That's what the script looks at for its save ID. So the way we overcome the actual duplication error that we get in game when we try to have two of the same unit running that same save ID is to rename the actual transform group. So you can rename this to whatever you want really, as long as it's not called something else within your Cinegraph. So if I want to here, I could actually rename this to sawmill or whatever I wanted to call it, again as long as it doesn't match anything else in here. So what I think I will do here is, just to test this out, I'm going to rename it to sawmill, and I'll hit the tab key on the keyboard. So I've put my name in my attributes window. For whatever reason, if this isn't open, just go into window and then attributes, and this will come up. Click in your name, type in the name whatever you want to call it. You could call it Fabrik 1 or Fabrik 01 if that's easier, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to rename it to sawmill. So I've put my name in, I've hit my tab key on my keyboard so that it then accepts that change. Pop-ups, go away. So it accepts that change. Fantastic. Let me just close down something here so I don't get lots of beepy bits. There we go. So basically what I want to do here is test this out. Now that I've renamed that, again I'm going to just say this so that you don't so you understand. The actual save ID for your Fabrik script units is the transform group itself. I know this is a cube, but it's based around the same sort of thing. It's got transform groups and bits within it. This is the actual main body of the unit, if you like, and that's what is designated as the save ID. So by changing that name to something different than what you've got already, will then it will create its own new save ID. So we're going to test that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and save this, and then we'll put this back into game, and we'll come back to here. I probably will have to put products back into it again, my logs, possibly wood chips, because I've renamed it. It will not know what that save ID is anymore for that particular unit, and it will then remove them. But that's fine. I can add those in add those back in really quickly. So we'll go back into game, and then we'll retest this, and we'll have a look at the error to see that it's actually disappeared and whatever else. Now I'm not going to run this entirely until it runs out of product. You can experiment and test that yourself, but I'm pretty confident that we will no longer have that error, because by changing that name of the unit, the main unit, we've now created our new save ID, and everything should work okay. So I'll see you in a little bit when we get back into game. Here back in the game again, so we can see that this particular unit is started up and running, no problem whatsoever. And that's fine, no problem. But as I suspected, this particular unit has now lost all of its inputs. It's got none of the wood chips and none of the logs, because I created a new save ID by renaming that transform group or cube, main cube, within the actual Cinegraph. That's perfectly fine. So I'll include this in the video, why not? So I'll just come over. I'm not going to actually spend too long doing this. I'll just quickly cut down a tree and drag it over. I'll cheat a little bit and just drag the whole thing into the actual trigger. So I cannot do this in first person, so apologies, but just have to bear with me on that. So we'll cut this one down, and all I'm going to do is just cheat, like I say, just to keep things a little bit short and whatever else for the video, and hopefully not get in the other trigger in the process. Whoops, I jammed up on something. There we're alright. It's a big old tree to be dragging around. tip over. Right. Come on. So as I say, we'll just get over here and force this thing into the trigger. Like so. There we go. Fantastic. And then I'll jump into the tractor and I'll put the remainder or whatever I've got left of the wood chips into there just to get it running up and whatever else. That's fine. Okay, so if we jump out, you can see in the top right there by the clock I've actually got this set to 5 times speed, so it shouldn't take too long for this to kick in. I will just speed it up just a little bit more just to get things going. Come on now, there we go. So that's now started up, no problem, excellent. And as you can see, it's producing all the bits and pieces. Got our logs, our wood chips, or vice versa, and all the bits and pieces coming out the other end. So if we come round, just to make sure that it is actually producing what we want. There we go. So we've got our pallet, got all our narrations, excellent, and we've got our wood chips coming out of here. Fantastic. So most importantly now, has the error gone? So error gone. Excuse me, I've got a cold, so as I say, sorry, words are a bit mumbled today. Anyway, so again I'm going to hit the tilde key on the keyboard and we'll bring up the console command here. So again, if I press page up, we'll go past all the other bits and pieces we don't need to worry about, and we'll come up to our Fabrik script stuff. And as we can see here, we'll come from the top here. So again, we've got our pig food mixer, TMR mixer, fermenting silo, and then we've got our Fabrik, which is this building over here. So this is one that's registered as Fabrik, and if we then bring up the console command again and we continue on down, we can skip all the others. If we come down to the very last one there, we've got Fabrik script version 2.1.7.1 Fabrik script on create load sawmill. And if you remember rightly, in the actual Giants editor session in the Cinegraph there, I actually renamed the duplication, this building over here, I renamed that to sawmill. So now we have a new save ID, which would be sawmill and not Fabrik. So now, whoops, wrong button, they will actually have their own save IDs completely separate from one another. The error has clearly gone, we've got no duplication error anymore, and they will not share the actual inputs any longer. So before, I suspect this one was, and it's not something I've proven, it's just something that I've read other people have had issues with, where the original will share the actual inputs from the duplication because they are sharing the same save ID. So this one over here, again, just to go through this one over here, having our original setup where they were both sharing the same save ID, this one was the original, so it would produce whatever it's going to produce, whether it be pallets or whatever it might be. This one will produce them really quickly, whereas this one will produce them really slowly and possibly run out of whatever inputs you're putting into it, in this case the logs and wood chips, and only have a very small portion of the pallet filled up. It will run out of its product really quickly because this original one is using the inputs from this duplication. So by creating a new save ID, by overriding or overwriting that Fabrik block cube, whatever you want to call it in the Cinegraph, and renaming it to sawmill, rename it to whatever you want. Like I say, you can call it Fabrik 1, Fabrik 01. If you're going to put loads and loads on the map, it might be of the same unit. We'll take Fabrik as an example. So if you want 5 of these things on the map, it might be worth calling the original one Fabrik, then this one Fabrik 01, and then the next one Fabrik 02, Fabrik 03, Fabrik 04 and Fabrik 05, just so you know what they are, and which each one is. So again, you need to experiment and play around with that and call it whatever suits you and works for you. So now we've got no error, we've got no duplication error. As I said before, they are using their own save ID, so whatever we get out of it at the end will be the full product and not have a product because of the sharing of inputs. So I wasn't going to do this, but what I will do is just speed up time a little bit. Hopefully it won't get too dark. And we'll see if we can actually get this one to stop. And this one to stop as well. This one might actually run out of wood chips because I haven't got very many wood chips. Yeah, this one actually ran out of wood chips, unfortunately, and I don't really want to go through getting any more. But so this one has actually stopped, and we've got a full pallet. I'm going to say we've got a full pallet. We'll just check that. So if we come round, yeah, we'll go 4,100%. And if we check this one, I would imagine this one's going to be quite high, but the fact that we run out of wood chips are fuels. So again, this one's 47% at 1,916. I suspect if we hadn't got that right by creating our new save ID, this one would be much lower on our output product because of the fact that this one would be using the inputs from this one. I'm probably made it sound really complicated, but all you need to know is that whatever you're going to be duplicating in your scenegraph in the map, make sure the duplication of it is called something else. Create a new name for it so it's different than the original, and that's all you really need to know, and everything should work perfectly fine. So I really hope that this has been of some information to you guys, and that you can now make as many duplications of whatever Fabrik script mod you are trying to put into your map. So thank you very much for watching. I hope to be doing more videos in the future when I get rid of this stupid cold and whatever else, so I will get back to this at some point. So again, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.